Well, good morning, good evening, everybody. It is March 21st where I'm sitting, and boy, already got through the first quarter of the year. Time flies. So I'll put in the chat today's presentation in PDF so you can follow along if you need to. Or if you're watching this recording, you'll be able to download it. The URL for the PDF is also in the description and comments. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about ZCM, the ZDC logging and analysis. So the ZENworks diagnostics, that's what we're going to go through today. Let's first cover a few things. What is ZENcast? ZENcast Live is for ZENworks administrators, the ZENworks community, and anybody just interested in ZENworks and what it does and its capabilities. We meet the first and third Tuesday of every month at 9 o'clock Mountain Time here in North America, and you can get the full you can get the recordings out on the YouTube support and training channel. So they're all listed out here under IM&G, Unified Endpoint Management, and here's all our ZENcasts. So these are past recordings. Be sure to check the comments and descriptions if you're looking for any PDFs that may apply to those particular training sessions. But that's what ZENcast Live is, being able to get you this particular forum, get you the information you're looking for, hopefully in your environment. So if you log into chat, you'd be able to post comments and questions as we go through the documentation or as we go through the material. And even if you have something that's an offshoot, please put it in chat. Happy to try and answer that quickly, even if it's not on topic. And if not, we can easily get back to you that way. You also can subscribe to notifications and so forth. All right, the best viewing is auto 720p 60. And again, like I said, the posted recorded videos have the description and links and references once they're posted. And this will be posted shortly after, probably 10 minutes after we conclude this particular broadcast. A new section that I have is Tidbits and Crumbs, and this has some details, the latest details on TIDs and other bits and some crumbs. Okay, so these basically are just items of different TIDs that have come recently. If they pertain to you, at least you have the links here, and you can go right into them and understand if they apply to your environment or not. But just by clicking the actual link. So these are new ones that have come out recently. Also, the same thing is for some bits. ZSD, if you're doing ZENworks Service Desk and you want token authentication, we have a couple of videos out there for OAuth and MS Modern, connecting to Azure AD for your O365, those types of things. We also have a series of workshop videos, install and troubleshooting the hybrid workspaces. Okay, part 1s and part 2s, an overview, troubleshooting and so forth, so that you can go through that and actually see how that works for you and be able to diagnose and troubleshoot issues if you're having them with hybrid workspaces. The ZENworks webinars coming up are is we had one March 16th, and they did that on Azure AD, Mac OS, and Modern Management. So you can check that review by going to this particular link, logging in, and getting to the recording. And you could also register for other ones. You could see here we have May and June all the way through the end of the year, at least I think October, set up. So we're going to be having those as a series. You automatically get reminders through this particular sign-up process. So be sure to sign up for that, and you'll be able to attend those webinars. April 20th is the next one. I believe it's on something with ZCM 2020 Update 4, but I'm not sure the details. We'll get that to you next ZENcast so that you have that information readily handy. Also, meet the ZENworks Experts Day. If you want to sign up, you go into the community, you sign up, and you have to be logged in to the community. And once you're logged in, you can join that particular workshop or Experts Day. That's coming up on March 22nd. Okay, so we can see here we're logging in, and it is going to be at 1500, which is I think 8 a.m. Mountain Time. All right. So be aware that those resources are available to you. And hey, Kurt, are you hearing a buzz? Let me know if that buzz is continuing, and I will see if I can adjust for that. Is it background buzz or just when I'm talking? Let me know. Thanks. We're going to do a little recap. ZSD outages and alerts was last time. How to create an outage, what do you have for system outage options, different configurations for alerts, whether they're public alerts or SLA expired or breached, the forums and so forth, home alerts, and then we had talked a little bit about change control and ZSD advanced settings. So you could check our recording from last week if that's interests you. And we did have an issue with the SLA and OLA approval process. And, okay, thanks, Kurt. I'll see if I can adjust that. The action and workflow state and the approval list. And so we can go through that process again on another ZENcast when we cover more ZSD. All right. Let me see if I can correct my audio for just a second. Let me go here. Before we get into today's ZENcast, let me see if I can get this to go away. Stand by a second. And I hope that's a little bit better. Kurt, let me know if that's any better. If not, I can switch to a different mic altogether. I just reset the settings. All right. I appreciate you prompting me on that. So today's agenda, we're going to cover ZDC integrity check and analysis. All right. We're going to cover some prerequisites. We're going to cover downloading. Obviously, when you download, you want to check the checksum, and running ZDC integrity check, and then reviewing the logs. So we're going to take care of those today and kind of review those and see what different quirks about that. So let's see. ZDC prerequisites. Okay, so the test environment for an upgrade. Of course, you still hear it. Okay, let me see if I can switch over. Is it real bad? I'll switch over while you answer that. Hold on a sec. Okay, we're going to try this. This is not on my headset, so I have to place it close to me. Let me know if that's any better. This is on my stand-up mic. Thank you. And I can take the headphones off if this works better. All right, so ZDC prerequisites, test environments for upgrade. So you want to run this, obviously test it in a test environment. You do your upgrades in a test environment. So you're going to run it on that as well. But ZDC version must match current and primary version. So when you have a primary server that's 2020 update 2, make sure you're using the ZDC for 2020 update 2. Thanks, Kurt. I'll go ahead and keep this mic here. Appreciate that. Yeah, I probably will have to talk a little bit louder. Let me crank that up a little bit, see if I can do it any better. I'll move closer. That should help. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what can be ignored. There's things that come in through ZDC, and we'll talk about why, that will show up as a false negative when it really just can be ignored. All right. So let's go ahead and look at a few things here
The nice thing about the ZDC information is you could see the server name, the server OS, the database type, the ZCM zone version, and the ZDC version. So just doing an audit on that primary server, you can just run this because it doesn't impact the server at all. Okay. When you run the ZDC, it's good to run. You can run it during maintenance, just as a matter of practice, but obviously you're going to run it when you do upgrades. Okay. And it runs against a few different components. So you have databases, you have the Zen database, the audit database, Zen content, system files. And if you have anti-malware on update 3, you'll also run against the anti-malware database. Okay. And you can see that in the documentation over here. The anti-malware is AM database. All right. I don't have it enabled on mine. I tried to do it real quick and I didn't get it started. So my bad. We'll run it. We'll see the error, but yeah, you can run it against different areas of your system. Okay. Let's look about ZDC running. So we have the documentation about running ZDC. You're going to download it. You're going to check the checksum, make sure it's good. As a matter of fact, I had mine and I kept getting an error. So, and I had this on 2 different machines. Well, I used the same ZDC on my 2020 update 3, and both of them, both primaries on 2 different zones were 2020 update 3, but I got the same exact error. And it was because my checksum was off. And, so I'm trying to figure this out for an hour, and one of my colleagues says, double checksum. And it's like, there it was. I re-downloaded, everything came in fine, as you'll see today. It can be run anytime, and you can run it just against system files or Zen content on each primary. So for instance, if you run the database and system files and Zen content on one primary, you don't need to run the database again on another primary in the same zone because it's already run against the database. Okay. So you just need to run it against the database once. And the command line is verify -v, Zen database, system files content, -b, and then the ZDC file. And this ZDC file is what I'm talking about, the version of your primary server. Okay. You want, if you're upgrading from update 1 to update 3, you want to make sure that you do update 1 before, and then after you get to update 3, run it again, make sure everything looks good. All right. Now the databases are separate, right? So you will need to verify against different databases. So the audit database or the AM database are here listed separately. You don't want to put this in the same sequence. So you wouldn't want to put ZDC verify -v, Zen database, audit database, because it has to authenticate to both of those. And you want to make sure it uses the right credentials, right? And the credentials it goes out and seeks those. And you don't want to use, if it's running the Zen database and then you have the audit database right after that, it may use the Zen database credentials before it actually receives the audit database credentials to run it. So run those in separate lines. That's why I have them listed separately. We do have some switches. And like I mentioned up here, you have the system files, Zen content, Zen database, audit database, and AM database. Of course, you only need to run those once in a zone. And then you have a collect extra info. And this is typically for debugging and defects or troubleshooting. The developers or your backline support may request you to run collect extra info. It is case sensitive. So the E and the I are both capitalized. Okay, else it won't run. And then we're going to look at some failure steps. Let's go ahead and go over to my zones. And I'm going to go over to here. And we have a zone. This one's a Windows zone. And it's separate from my appliance. Okay, and let me do this. Let's do view. Let's do stretch so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. All right, so we have downloaded the ZDC. We've extracted the ZDC. We've checked the checksum on the zip file that we downloaded. And then all we have to do is on the Linux side is you have to chmod. So if I do an ll, let me get into that ll. And if I do I already chmodded it. You need to make sure it's executable, the ZDC, right? In the same package is used for ZDC bat, which would be Windows, and then the ZDC, which is a script for Linux. So we've already chmodded, and basically it would be chmod 755 ZDC, and it'll turn green, right? And then we could run that slash ZDC. And if you just run that, it'll give you some parameters that you could use, okay? For example, ZDC minus verify minus V, Zen database, so forth, okay? And of course, at the end, you got to give the path to that ZDC file. All right. So I put down at the bottom of the slide on the left is cat etc. So if I did cat etc star dash release, we can see what our system is built up with. And you can see, let's see, near the bottom we have SLES. It's 12SP5. You can see just above the SLES is ZENworks 2020 Update to Appliance. Okay, so that's a command you could use in Linux to see what version you're on. Of course, you can always go to your ZCC to check what version you're on as well, right? So if we went, where's my, yeah, we're going to go here. We go into one of these. Here's one of my zones. And it's going to prompt me because I don't have the 7443 because it is update 3, and I got to put HTTPS in front of it. All right, let's go ahead and log in. And we'll go in as administrator. Okay. You probably saw on the front page as well as here that we're at update 3. Okay. All right. And we currently, if we go to diagnostics, you can see we're on Postgres for the ZENworks and the audit database, and the anti-malware service is not, we're not running the anti-malware service. So that command will fail on here. And we'll show you that, but we're prepared to know that. So if we were to go back, and I've ran this already. So right now I've done ZDC verify minus B without putting in any parameters, and it'll run all the parameters automatically. And then I put the path to the ZDC file. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and let that run. You can see right at the beginning, it shows you the zone, host name, the version, and the version of the ZDC. As that's running, we're going to go over to our Windows box. We can see it here. We're going to look at that ZDC a little bit more. What I did is I extracted it to ZDC, right? C:\ZDC. And what it's going to run is this ZDC bat. Okay. Everything else is in order. We do have to give it the path to this data file. Okay. And so we're going to do that. And so if we go ahead and run this batch file, we can go ahead and run it. You could see previously that it showed ZCM version 20.3 is there. I tried to run the AM database, and you can see up here, it obviously failed because I don't have it running on either of my systems. But we're going to just run ZDC, and you can see here the Windows 20.3, verify the state, and so forth. Oh, is that still? Hang on. Let me go. We'll put in some parameters this time. System files, Zen content, and Zen database. minus V. I got to wait for the minus V. I didn't put the minus V in there. When you put in parameters, you got to tell it what you're doing. Okay. So it's going to connect, log into the database. Oh, cannot find. Oh, okay. So why is that? Let's see what's going on here. Temp data, because I think I changed it to just ZDC. Let me go here. Okay, connecting again, and we have connection to the database. Okay, because it was able to find everything it needed, and it knows all the subcommands to go for. We're going to go back over to our other appliance zone. You can see it's complete, and at the end it shows you the ZDC report and where it's located. All right, and ZDC home is where we've run it from, and you'll see in here. Reports. You can see in there we have one run today on the 21st. Okay, and we'll look at that through WinSCP. But let's go over here first and see a couple of things. Some of the things you may see missing is a missing file, a mismatch or inconsistent files, an extra file. And then remember, Linux and Windows differ between RPMs and DLLs. So you may see some of those. And then the path to downloads. Obviously, you can see, you'll see where downloads is missing files or something. Well, if it's downloads, you may or may not have an issue there. That may be a false negative as well. But to be certain, you can always call support to verify. Are you using that feature? So, for instance, if you're using patch or you're not using patch, it may fail on patch. Okay, because it's trying to see those added config files that don't exist because you haven't configured it yet. If there's an FTF installed, you've called support for some other issue, and you've uploaded and changed some files, so you fixed an issue that was going on with the system. Well, those checksums on those files, which is what ZDC does, it checks checksum on all those files. That checksum is now different. So it may fail on that as well. So going through those, you might identify those FTFs that have been overwritten because of a fix. And then copying, one way to fix it is if you have another primary that's the same type primary and the same version, you can copy the files over to get those correct. All right. Obviously, if you have an FTF applied, you don't want to overwrite your FTF. So be cautious of that. But most likely you've applied that FTF to each of your primaries. Okay. And you may see false negatives like we talked about, and we'll look at those. And we're going to look at what must be addressed and what can be ignored. Okay. And I did find, I use Notepad++ a lot. I did find a lot of resources for this. I'm going to go past this slide. So here's references for ZDC. There's a great video out there. Yes, it's 11, but it shows you the process of running ZDC and some analysis. If you have content issues, you can go to this video and actually fix your content issues, whether it's content in the repository that isn't listed in the listed in the system, or if there's things in the system that aren't content, the content doesn't exist on the database. So you have those incompatibilities. This content analysis video is really good. And then there's ZDC improvements, how we've improved ZDC coming into the 2020 upgrade. There's the ZCM troubleshooting, which has some ZDC stuff. And then, of course, you can get some of those links through the cookbook that's out there. And then collecting the ZDC baseline is one particular documentation that's very handy to use and have open while you're running it. So you have collecting, you have downloading, extracting, and then you have running that you may want to do. Do note that there are some important notes that you may want to be aware of. So be sure to have the document handy. But the links are all here in this particular PDF. So be available. And then to download for this particular 2020 update 3, you can go on out to this link, and then you can go to software download, and it will bring you to SLD. Once you get into SLD, you can then download your ZDC for this particular one. Your SLD will have the different versions depending on which version you're currently on. If you're on update 2, it'll have the update 2 version as well. I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick just to show you. Oh, I got to go here. Email address. I'll go ahead and select. I believe this is the one I found it in. I have a couple accounts, so it may or may not be there. I also listed on the left some TIDs. ZDC report displays inconsistencies. There's this one here. This is one actually in the documentation, in the ZDC documentation. Known issues. ZENworks Diagnostic Center report displays inconsistencies for patch management. All right. And these can be ignored. All right. So we're trying to document those as they come up, so you don't, so you have an easy way to just be able to ignore them if you're uncertain. Let's see, and there's community discussions as well about the topics. Okay, let me go back over to, where was I? I was here. Building. Here we go. So my ZDC is right here, ZENworks Diagnostic Center. I can then go ahead and download. All right. Good. Okay. So that's how basically you'd go get it. You'd then do the checksum, and then you can go ahead and run. Now we've run it on 2, so let's go ahead and check these out. I have some older TIDs. The reason why, before we go examine those, the reason why I dropped in these older TIDs, and some of these are old, but they're still pertain to and give you ideas of why you need to override, what might be missing and inconsistencies. And they give you some good details on, even though that's, 2017 update 3, the missing, the topic behind it is this, and it'll still apply. Typically it'll still apply because it's more of a process than anything else. So let's go ahead and look at these here. So we have, this is 150, so we just ran another one. So we're going to go ahead, we'll download this. Let's see, let's go to new directory. We'll call this 150. Hit OK. And now we'll have our reports for 150 in here. Okay, good. All right. So now if we go to my machine and we go to C, users, ball, downloads, ZENworks Diagnostic Center. Here, sorry. 150. Now there's, the index is really where you want to go to first. That'll give you the links to the others. All right. So if you select index HTML, the very first page that comes up gives you the reports for the others, the system files default, the Zen content, the Zen database, and so forth. The nice thing about this report, again, you can run this for maintenance just to see where you are, because it'll tell you the current ZDC that you ran against which zone, the current version of the zone, and your database and what type of machine it's on, as well as its host name. So you can compile these into multiples if you have multiple primaries, and be able to see what's going on and which ones have been run when, right? We're going to go to System Files Report, and we're going to see some errors. All right, these are inconsistent. All right, we'll get back to that. Let's look at our audit database. Audit database is small. This one, everything is found okay. All right, so I rarely see issues with the audit database. The Zen content may or may not have some issues, and that's where objects are referenced in files versus the database, and are they consistent, as well as the Zen database. All right, we have some issues on the Zen database as well. Now you can see these are missing, and if there were other things, inconsistencies or something, they'd be listed right below this. Okay, whoops, sorry. Go back. So these are all missing objects in the table. Now, I don't have patch running, all right? So I'm pretty okay with this. If I'm concerned, I would call support, but I'm pretty much okay with these. And also, if we look back at that mention, we want to check to see patch signature, index error. Let's see. Patch signature and patch signature. So these are the ones that are listed here. Okay, and it says these can be ignored. So I'm not going to be too concerned about this one, especially since I don't have my patch management running. Okay. All right, but let's go back to the system files and see what's going on here. We're going to go full screen just so we can give you a better view. Notice on the right hand side there are RPMs that it's doing the checksum for, because it is the Linux side. Now this is inconsistent. All right, we show that what's expected and what's actual. We see the checksum expected and actual. And so I do know that I have a couple of FTFs on this box. I don't know if it pertains to the CASA auth token, but that would be something that I would investigate. Okay, so you can see a couple of CASA auth tokens here. Those are RPMs. Okay. Now, for instance, if we go down, let's go to the bottom and see if there's anything below inconsistencies. No, just a warning. Okay. Another one, same thing. This is an RPM is inconsistent, actual. And if you're uncertain if this is accurate, we can walk through them with support and determine if these are to be concerned before we do our upgrade, or what our next upgrade is, or just doing our maintenance. But in this case, I'm thinking we're okay. All right. One thing that we didn't do, or we can do, is add that extra ZDC. That was 150. So we can do collect extra info. If I did that right, let me double check my notes here, because I want to make sure I get that right, because it'll run through the whole thing before. I don't want to have to stop it. So collect extra info right at the very end. And if we scroll over, we'll see that. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Oh, sorry. This one is TMP, ZDC, because we're in the reports right now. I'm going to go with CD. All right, we'll just go from there, because I should, yeah, I didn't put the path to the ZDC. I did the path to the ZDC file. So, could not understand the following command line argument. Oh, because I did the lowercase I. Let's change that. There we go. All right, it's going to run. It'll take a little bit longer, so we're going to go over to our Windows box. All full screen. We can see what's going on. We currently have reports where we ran it. Yeah, I've been testing it, running to see what's going on. We ran this one today. Even if it fails, for instance, this one failed. Notice there's nothing in here really, only because it couldn't process the reports because there's nothing there to process. So we're going to go here and we're going to go to index HTML. And again, we have our system information. We can see it's a Windows server. We can see the host name. It's not an appliance. Postgres 20.3.0 and 20.3.0. So we know we ran the right ZDC with the right zone primary server version. And we go to system files and we could see a few more different errors here. All right. Files are missing for ZES FW, for ZES firewall, okay, and ZES Wi-Fi. So we have some missing files here. If we had another primary of the same zone, we could probably copy those sys files and correct that. I don't. This is a single primary zone, so I don't. We have a missing file in conf database table, null mapping properties file. So I'd be concerned about that because it's a properties file, and see what that really affects. And then we have a couple other XML files here, right? And then we have some extra files because it looks at all the files in there, and it found some extra files. And we could see that here the activator module, the patch module, some DLLs. And you can see these are versions of countries. And if it's not the country that I'm using, you can, it's just a warning. You could probably ignore these, and it is a warning. And then you have inconsistencies again. So you have, notice the checksum is different. It's not that it's missing. It's not that it's corrupt or anything that we know of, but it could be because checksum's different. But again, as I mentioned, I've done some FTFs on these machines for update 3. So this is where you want to kind of check this out and see if it's okay. When I was managing a zone, I would call support and double check. There are things you can do as far as, remember I mentioned the TIDs. Some of the TIDs I know were like, what do we have here? We have our missing content. So if we went here, we could probably see it's 11. Yeah, it's 11. But it still pretty much tells you what's going on. Now, this happened to be on these 2 versions. Yes, this is way out. This is an old document. This is 2016. However, you get the gist of files referenced. You have a GUID, different GUID for the same name of the file. Okay, so it lists like this so that you could see, do I ignore them? These file errors can be ignored, but it gives you some resolution or some interest. And you might find those also, like we found in the documentation, that are already TIDs are already out there or documentation is already out there that you can just ignore, so you can move through your day a little bit faster without having to call support. All right. Okay. Sometimes what happens with these inconsistencies is they'll be published and you get a system update on your, if it's affected through the online updates on the appliance, or you have an update, same version, just an update for a file, obviously these will be inconsistent. Okay. So those are ways that you could see some anomalies that occur for these inconsistencies to show up. These are the patch ones we covered already. Let's go back to our database here. All right, yeah, system content. What do we have for content? It's all good. And database report. So again, we have our patch. So that looked like it was a common issue depending on what patch you had going. Remember, 2020 update 3 has the old version until you migrate to the new version of patch, the advanced patching. So that's probably what stemmed from this, and that's why they documented it. So I'm just mentioning that don't be too alarmed if you find these. Just verify. It's always good to verify. Now, the one thing you can remember is if you go from, let's say you went from let's say we go from 2017 appliance to 2020 appliance, right? Or where you're actually replacing the appliance. Some of these also can be ignored because the whole system, the whole appliance, you're going to a new appliance. You're not upgrading that appliance. You're going to a new appliance with all new files. And it'll just update the identity of that new primary server. So there are other ways, and support may tell you that as well. Oh, you're migrating and you have new appliance up and your old appliance had these particular missing files. We don't need to worry about that because your new appliance that you're migrating to will have all brand new files with the latest version on it. So just some cues on things to think about when you're going through this. I'm not saying this is a support session, and that's my disclaimer. This isn't a support session, but just to show you some resources and some things that might come into play because you have errors in these particular reports. Okay. Let's see. We ran that inconsistency or that extra info. I also ran it on this guy yesterday, so we can actually, without waiting, we can go into one of these guys. Not that one. Not that one. Let me find. Okay, so this is a normal one. Notice you have the 6 HTMLs. And if we go to this one, notice we have extra info HTML. And we have extra info HTML here. All right. So if we go to the index here by using that collect extra info, you'll see audit database extra info and Zen database extra info. So it gives you additional information about what's going on with your database. The table name, the row name, or row count. Okay. And this is primarily used for, like I said, debugging and development to be able to fix something for you or support to fix something for you. Just so you know that that's what shows up. If we go to the audit database, you can see there's nothing in the audit database because the row counts are all 0. Oh, there's a 1. Okay. There's a couple 1s in there, but you can see over here the database extra info shows additional things, and it shows the table name and the row count, which is very helpful when we're troubleshooting. It gives you the same details. So when you send this ZDC off to development because they're troubleshooting, they will have additional stuff that's needed about tables in your database. Okay. Let's see if we got anything else in here. We got missing files. Oh, we talked about this already. And then system information. So that's a ZenWorks Diagnostics Center. Let me go over to here and see where we stand. Is there any more? Yeah, expected failures. Expect them if you have an FTF applied. Okay. And you may see them if you have online updates applied, depending on what that online update does for the product. Because this checks the ZenWorks, not so much the operating system. Okay, so be aware of that. You want to run it anytime. You can run it anytime without impact. It just goes out and runs and reports to you. So you can clean these up well ahead of any upgrades that you're doing, right? When you get a chance. So it's not like something you're in the hard part is when you get to 0 day of upgrading from update 2 to update 3 and you run the update 2 ZDC and you get errors. and they don't look good. Now you're halted to be able to talk to support and make sure. You can run this anytime and just make sure. Then you can see the trend if there's any changes over time. Database migration, same thing. You can run it if you're doing a database migration before or after ZCM primary upgrade. You do it for quarterly maintenance, before and after an FTF is applied, so you can see what those inconsistencies are and actually identify them the next time you run it, that, oh yeah, that was my FTF. And then details show the environment information, which is very handy to understand where you're connected and what's that zone consists of. Identifying false negatives. There is a TID out there for missing tables, the ZVPP assignment table. That's out there as well. So along with these TIDs here. And again, you can go out to these TIDs. The cookbooks have the different ZDCs in them as well. So if you went out here and you wanted to run ZENworks diagnostics, you can go down to Diagnostic Center and you can get all of the ones for 0, 1, and 2 for 2020 on this TID. This will take you right to the download. Okay, tells you a few things about running and so forth. So cookbooks are fairly helpful, as well as getting you to the files that you may need. All right. Again, the content analysis is really good. If you're checking why you're getting bundle errors, you may need to check your content. And it talks about the actual documentation in here. It tells you the content locations, where you'd find the content locations, what commands to do for the content, checking this content system. So it's a very good and handy video for checking your content, because that may be affected somewhat, a little bit in the ZDC. All right. I'm not seeing any questions in chat. I appreciate, Kurt, you giving me the audio check. Glad we were able to clear that up. I do want to mention that we did have a webinar on the 16th of March for 2020 Update 3, or update about 2020 Update 4. And that's coming third quarter of 2023. This new, we're moving to the new open text versioning, which is year and quarter. So I'm still getting used to that. But they talked about Azure AD and Mac Modern Management, so check it out. The links are in this particular presentation. The 21st is today, and we're analyzing the ZDC logs. April, we're going to analyze the ZENinfo logs, and then some future requests from customers. You can see the whole schedule out with this link out here on the Team Collaboration and Endpoint Management blog. And you can register. The registration for the webinars is here. You can see the complete list of recordings, which is here. Oh, nope, wrong one. ZENworks Webinars Index, Livecast. Yeah, there's one of the links also out here takes you to the past recordings. And these are the things that they've talked about so far. All right, patch management, so you can look for those recordings. And here's a series, you just single click to get to any one of the YouTube trainings or webinars that are out there. So you can just click on that and go directly to the webinar. You want to see this webinar, you can just click on this. And once you log in, you'll get to that particular site. Where are we? Oh, it used the same. Let me just go back. And so if you're searching for something, for instance, you're looking for, you could just control find, and you're looking for logs or imaging. Let's go image. You can see we have imaging. Okay. Just a quick, easy index. Use the browser search and you'll find it for all the different topics that we've done. And most of these still pertain because they're fairly recent products that we've done these recordings on. All right. I don't have anything else for you. Let's see what else we have on the presentation. We're going to go over some versions. Update 3, 7.8 ZRS, 831 ZSD, 22.9 is released. ZCM 23.3, which is update 4, will be coming out in August timeframe. ZRS 23.2 should be around May. ZSD 23.3 should be around June. And Hybrid Workspaces 23.2 should be around May, June timeframe. Okay, with some features listed there, and those may change. Here's some links to some community lookbooks. If you're doing version upgrades, check out these lookbooks. They have a lot of information and feature lists and so forth. Hybrid Workspaces, there's a complete troubleshooting series going on here. Also ZSD auth and token configuration if you're doing service desk and you need token configuration for OAuth or MS Modern. These are brand new videos I just put out there. So those are good. And some other things with ZenWorks Service Desk, as well as the collaboration community. Make sure you go out to the community so you can see and stay informed. Other TIDs I listed in here for ZSD and ZCM. You can look through them, see if they pertain to you. Part of the community, we have a ZCM blog, ZSD blog, Hybrid Workspaces blog. There are other live casts going on top of the what we're doing with ZENcast. Filer the first Thursday, Groupwise Enterprise Messaging second Thursday, ZenWorks the third Thursday, and OES iPrint the last. And if you just click on the link, it'll take you out to there. There's the list of the other webinars. It'll take you out to be able to register. All right. There's a Keppinger Cole analyst on Unified Endpoint Management, how we placed. And then we have the TTP EMEA came in last February, March. It was in Weiden, Germany, and had a great participation. It was in person. We will be having a Meet the Experts ZenWorks, and again, this link is live to be able to go out to the community, and that's going to be on March 22nd. And then the TTP USA is coming in July. It's also going to be an in-person. There's another webinar out there for UAM hybrid workers. And finally, the next ZenCast is on April 4th. ZCM analyzing Zen info logs. And I thank everybody for being here or watching this recording. Hope you get out of it what you need. Remember the recording, the PDF links are in the comments and description of this recording. But I appreciate you being here in person as well. Kurt, thanks for being here and watching over me and making sure my audio is good. Otherwise, I don't have anything for you. No other questions in chat. We're going to move on and give you a little bit of your day back. Thank you and stay safe.